Ready?
Hit it!
Hello everyone and welcome to Twice Nightly the podcast with Maria Lovelady
And Michael Allen Bailey, a podcast that aims to bring everything variety out of the wings and into the limelight.
So what are we waiting for?
Let's raise the curtain
And start the show! Coming up on today's show, we've got one of Britain's best loved actresses.
A musical maestro.
And find out which Carry-On star, a former Coronation Street star, stole bathwater from with Patrick Stewart in the next room.
Welcome everybody on Music Hall and Variety Day 2022 for our Series 2.
She's a poet and she didn't know it. That's a line from Dinnerladies. I thought I'd provide some smooth segues.
You're very good at providing a smooth segue, Mike.
I do try. I should put that on my CV, shouldn't I?
Now, that was a little clue to who our guest is going to be today. But before we get into that, we just wanted to say a huge thank you, really, and that we are so happy to be back here for Series 2. And it's all down to you guys listening in and supporting us throughout Series 1.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because for us, the work hasn't actually stopped. As soon as we stopped Series 1, we've carried straight on. So it feels weird to say that we're back for Series 2 because we're not back. But we've been working really hard to get some great interviews. And shall we talk a little bit about who we've got coming up?
Yeah, because we can't wait to share them with you.
We have got Alison Child, the author of a very fabulous book about two forgotten but very, very special variety stars. We've got theatre photographer and full-time genius, Simon Anand. We can't wait to hear from him.
He will love that.
We have got New York Times best-selling author Nichelle Gaynor, whose works include the brilliant Vintage Black Glamour, which we are absolutely obsessed with, aren't we?
Obsessed.
Author Oliver Double, Dr. Oliver Double, if you don't mind. Never let it be said that we... Never let it be said that we don't bring some very, very fabulous people on this show. And also we've got the multi-award winning theatre architect, Tim Ronald. How great is that for a kickoff? But that's not it. Maria, who else have we got coming up?
That isn't it. Music hall diva Ida Barr herself will be joining us. You guessed it, none other than the incredible performer Kit Green will be here. We've also got Cockney maestro Mr. Tom Carradine, acting coach to the stars Ken Ray, and a special collaboration with the brand spanking new Shakespeare North.
If that isn't something for everyone, what is?
I'm trying to think. I was trying to think of something witty there that is for everyone. The Chase, which might also be quite a good segue for next week's episode.
Well, listen, that's a little hint, a little cheeky hint, isn't it? Oh, I hate that. I hate cheeky. I don't want to say that. I don't want it to be a cheeky hint. What's a variety theatre kind of hint that we could give? A saucy hint?
A saucy hint.
A saucy hint, yes, because that actually ties into the guest as well, doesn't it, really, if you think about it? But as well as hearing from all of our amazing guests, we also want to hear from you. Now, we've got a brand new way for you guys to get in touch with us, and that is through SpeakPipe. Now, at the touch of a button, you can use SpeakPipe to record us a voice message. Now, whether that's to give us feedback on the show, a connection or a memory that you've got that links you with variety, or even if you'd like to leave a message for one of our guests, head on over to SpeakPipe, www.speakpipe.com/twicenightlythepodcast. We can't wait to hear from you guys because we do, don't we? We hear from a lot of you. You send us messages and you get in touch on social media, and it's so touching. We love it, and we're so overwhelmed by the support we've had for Series 1. So that's why we've been striving to bring you an even more fabulous Series 2, even though Series 1 was pretty fabulous as well.
It was pretty fabulous, and if you've not listened to it, go back and have a listen. And wherever you're listening now, please subscribe and give us a 5-star review because it helps other people to find us and help build this community.
I love that word, community, and I think that today being Music Hall and Variety Day, community is something that we have really felt, hasn't it? Doing the podcast, the people that we've connected with, the people that we've met. I mean, it's no exaggeration to say that we have been up and down all over the country, haven't we, doing this? It's a pure passion project, and the people have made it so much more than it ever
And we thought it could be, yeah. And I think, Kit Green's show that we just mentioned was a great example of that, because we went and there was about 4 people there that we'd had on the podcast, and we didn't know each other before and they didn't know each other. And it's just a wonderful world to just keep building on and keep creating, because as we kind of discussed today, it's really, I don't want to say dying, but we have to keep it alive. It's something that we've got to actively do and find each other. So I think, once you found your tribe, stick to it and give them a 5-star review.
Because that is what music hall and variety is all about, isn't it? It's about community, and it's about pulling together, and it's about everybody coming together for this passion that they've got.
Which is what our guests have done today. So why don't we segue into talking about
your smooth segue.
Get your smooth segue out and tell everyone who we have got coming up on our episode today.
So the first of our guests is one of our favourite faces from stage, screen, and the glorious telly box. We are speaking to the one and only Reid. I nearly said Dame Anne Reid, because we keep saying, don't we, she really should be a dame. There's no excuse that she's not a dame.
I'm surprised that she isn't. And I just wish that yesterday we'd got our swords out, our own swords, a chocolate finger or something, and made her a twice nightly dame, because she is absolutely the most deserving person.
She is known the world over as the star of Last Tango in Halifax, Dinnerladies, Years and Years, and of course the current BritBox smash, Sanditon, as well as appearing in hit movies like Hot Fuzz, The Mother, and Love Actually. Now, I know you're all probably thinking, she wasn't in Love Actually. Oh, she was. And we get to talk to Anne a little bit more about the crime of the century a little bit later on. But she's not alone. Anne is not alone. Maria, tell us who else is with her.
Well, you'd think that one Tony nomination would be enough for one person, but not for our next guest, Jason Carr.
It's Reid.
Well, Jason Carr has got not 1, but 2 Tony nominations, an Olivier nomination, and a Drama Desk Award for Outstanding Orchestration to boot. He has worked with everyone from Lorna Luft and Maria Friedman to Peter Hall, and he joins forces once more with the fabulous Anne Reid for their cabaret show, A Night at the Pictures, which will be at Crazy Coq's at Brasserie Zedels from the 20th to the 22nd of May. Tickets are on sale now, but they are selling out fast. So we've included all the links to that in our show notes, so you can find that really easily. And if all of that wasn't enough incentive for you to go and buy a ticket, me and Mike will be there on Saturday night. So if you're there, come and say hi.
This was a real, we were so honoured, weren't we? Anne very graciously invited us to her home to do the interview. We had cups of tea. She gave us crisps and cheese. We had the most fabulous afternoon.
Hilarious, because that is the difference between me and you, because we did drink a lot of tea, but we also drank a lot of wine.
I stuck with the tea. I stuck with my cup of tea. But do you know what? I've got to say, for me, it was a real exercise in self-control, because I don't know whether I ever mentioned it on the podcast, but obviously you know Maria, and anyone that knows me would know, I am the biggest Dinnerladies fan on the planet. And it was so hard to not just quote lines out of the whole time. And even when we left, my brother texted me straight away and said, was it really difficult for you not to just quote Dinnerladies the whole interview? And I said, yes, to the point where eventually I had to acknowledge it. I had to just say, Anne, I could quote this at you all day. Super fan.
My brother texted, actually, as soon as we
did he?
Out there, and because I sent my family the picture of us all together, and he put, can you tell her that she was my favourite in Dinnerladies? And I thought, I'm glad that we've already left, because I bet she gets it all the time.
The thing is, though, when anyone meets a celebrity, it's kind of an automatic thing, isn't it, to go, I'm a big fan. I
love your work.
But
you're my muse.
You're my muse. But when you meet someone, you genuinely are. It's so surreal. And actually, you do want to underplay it a little bit, because you think, 2 words, restraining order.
Yeah, but anyone that listens to this now is going to know that we did not play it cool. But I think people should just judge for themselves. Actually, you can get in touch with us. Did we play it cool? Have a listen and find out.
I predict a landslide result.
Here is Anne Reid and Jason Carr, A Night at the Pictures.
So thank you both very much for speaking to us today, and Anne, thank you so much for inviting us into your lovely home.
Thank you.
So
I first became aware of your collaboration through the album that you made in 2016 with Sir Derek Jacobi.
Right.
You're the best thing that ever has happened to me, which I just loved. And I remember the first time I listened to it, and I thought, this is total joy. It's just pure joy.
That's nice, thank you.
But then I thought about it a little bit more, and I thought, actually, thinking of you, Anne, and your career and who you are, that's not uncommon. I feel like everything you do is pure joy.
Oh.
The work you've done with Victoria
Well, you can
Wood.
say, if you're going to flatter me. Yes, I'll just keep quiet. Tell me how wonderful I am.
But it's true, isn't it? I mean, all the stuff with Victoria Wood and last
I've
Tango
been
in
very
Halifax.
lucky,
Yeah.
you know. You have to get the job first, and I'm not in charge of that, so I'm very lucky that I get that. I do think comedy helps. I think it helps your career enormously. I'm always saying to students from RADA, if I meet them, you know, they come up and occasionally ask my advice, and they talk about, I'm going to study Shakespeare for the next 6 months. And I said, well, you can forget that for a start. I shouldn't say that. But you need to find somebody who teaches you how to time a comedy line. That's what you need. And that's what will pay your gas bills, actually, in the end.
And who taught you then how to do comedy?
I don't know, darling. It was kind of in the family. I came from a family of people who were very funny, all my brothers, and my father was funny. And everybody was waiting for a feed line to get a joke in, you know. I think it's just born in you. I think you can learn a certain amount. My husband was a very funny man, and I think I learned quite a lot about wit from him. But you can tell straight away when you meet somebody, can't you, if you tell them a joke.
So that joyous aspect, how much of that is a factor when you do something like the show that you're doing with Jason?
Well, Cabaret, you'll get a word in a minute.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Cabaret, to go back, I always liked to sing. I loved to sing. And a long time ago, I said to my agent, I'd love to do a musical. Could you put me up for an audition? And she rang the next morning and said, I've got you an audition at Sadler's Wells for the musical 9. And I thought, oh my God. So I practiced.
Talk about in at the deep end then.
No, and so I practiced in the kitchen. I practiced a little bit of, is it Irving Berlin, No Strings and No Connections?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Top Hat, yeah.
Top Hat. And I went and sang it to them, and their jaws dropped open. I don't think they ever heard anything so awful. And they said, you can never do a musical. And I said, well, I'm terribly sorry if I wasted your time. I said, I'm determined to do a musical. And I walked out and sat on the stairs and cried. And I just thought, I just want so desperately to do it. And that night, I went to the Royal Northern. I was living in Manchester to see Madame Butterfly. And in the interval, I was talking to this lady, and I said, what do you do? And she said, I teach singing. And I thought, it is fate.
Absolutely.
So I then went and worked with her. And then nothing happened. I used to get arrangements. There was a friend of mine who was a musical director at Granada, and he was always doing... I used to ring him up and say, will you arrange this song for me? And he would say, why? And I said, well, I don't know. I just had to have it in my key, you know, in a key that I could sing in. I don't know, it just made me feel safe in a really, that's the only way I can describe it. I just felt safe if I'd got it. And then fast forward, I was at the south of France. I was standing having a glass of wine, you know, leaning up against a wall, watching this lady who ran a theatre dance. She was rehearsing people for a cabaret that evening, and I just said, I've often fancied doing a cabaret, and she just said, give me a date. And I said, no, I can't do it. And she said, well, think about it. So all the way back on the train, I was writing lists and lists, because I've always loved music. I mean, I've always collected songs. It's much more part of me than acting. It really, I promise you it is. And anyway, I worked with a friend of mine who was a pianist, and we worked for a year, went back and did it, and in France, because my friend Hilary said, you know, if you're terrible, you never need to do it again, and nobody's going to know in London. Absolutely changed my life. And then Jason and I started working together, you know, and he's amazing.
Well, we get to the things we both love, for whatever reasons, the same wonderful old songs. You know, I was brought up in my mother's dancing school in Leeds, playing all these old songs and hearing them. And, you know, and what's great about Annie is she absolutely takes it very seriously. I think sometimes people, they have a bit of a light attitude to something like this, whereas Annie takes it very seriously. She really understands, which I mean is very germane to the world of variety. She understands running order. It's so key.
I'm really good.
It's key.
Jason, I'm good at putting a show together.
Yeah.
I think
Because you write the links yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
So it's not just like one song after
Oh no!
another.
Oh gosh, you couldn't rely on my singing for an evening entertainment. I hope you're not coming on Saturday thinking you're going to get Kira Chikanawa, darling, because you're not. I'm telling you.
We'd much rather have Anne Reid.
I'm lucky if I can keep the tune going. But I love doing it, and I have thought, you can't go on doing this now, you're too old. But I thought, stuff it, they can't. Why not? Why not?
Absolutely.
Just keep going, they can shoot me eventually.
I mean, I think what's marvellous about this show, as you've constructed it, is you tell all these wonderful stories of growing up in the Northeast during the war, and with some very poignant personal stories, things that are very sad and moving. But you talk about going to the cinema 2 or 3 times a week with your mum and seeing all these wonderful escapist Hollywood movies. And I think in this show, the juxtaposition of that real life going on and the escapism, I think it makes the songs more poignant and joyous.
I do say it is a trip down memory lane, and all those songs from that time, from the 40s and 50s, which is what it is, I love them so much. There's my grandma to talk about variety, and maybe if you meet anybody who knows anything about George Robey, my grandmother got a job in the chorus at the Aston, and there's the only connection with show business that I have. She played the piano and sang, but the only time she worked professionally that I know about was in the chorus with George Robey at the Aston Empire. And my father was brought up on those Victorian variety, and we always went to the Crazy Gang when they were here.
When you got this opportunity then to do your own cabaret, was it ever in your mind to do it as a character and act it, or was it always going to be you? No,
Marie, that's absolutely a different thing. And I do think that it's just something that I'm not frightened of doing. No, if you get up there as a character, you've had it, haven't you?
Well,
you get up there and start pretending to be.
That it's play.
Barbara, some actors, find it really, really hard. And my friend Leslie Nichol, plays Mrs. Patmore. Yeah. She's just started doing cabaret. Now she's a natural. I always think of it like I've just had dinner with these people. Yes. And I just say, I'm just going to get up and tell you a few jokes and sing a few songs. And I think that's what it ought to be. I think it ought to have a bit of glamour about it and charm and humour, really. That's how I think about it.
So, Jason, can I ask you then, as actors who sing ourselves, I know I can speak from my experience and say that I think the relationship between a musical director and an accompanist is so important to establish that trust and get that comfort. How do you go about putting a performer at ease like that? How do you go about establishing that trust?
And does he?
I want to hear this.
Oh, I don't know. I think I naturally breathe with singers, and that sometimes I hear accompanists playing, and they either seem to get ahead or not. They're just not with the singer, and I don't get.
So you're there for the singer.
Absolutely, and it's a great joy. And in our instance, we both adore these songs. That it's fascinating to me. I mean, we do songs, say, from 20th Century Fox movies from the 40s, that Betty Grable movies or whatever, that were the most successful things in their day, but nobody knows these songs anymore because they weren't sort of the integrated MGM musicals. We still watch Singing in the Rain, we still watch The Bandwagon, we do.
Yes, we
do. But people don't watch Moon Over Miami or these movies that were the most successful movies of the day, because they're not terribly well integrated. Often the characters aren't singing, they're just there as performers, and so they turn up in a nightclub at some point and sing 3 or 4 songs, and so they're dated in many ways, but they are these marvellous songs by the like of your favourite songwriters.
God sent him to me. God sent Jason
to me. You love Harry Warren, composer.
I'm sure I bore him to death. I just talk music the whole time because Jason's the only person that I've got in my life that I can talk.
Well, you know how it is when you search for your tribe, don't you? I mean, we all search for our tribe and cling to those people that you can kind of
completely.
That people don't just look at you blankly when you start.
You mention Bing Crosby, and
that's kind of how. We just ping.
light
Yes,
up.
smile.
That's kind of odd, like how we met, isn't it, in our relationship as well? So it's really important to find that.
I've often been paired with people of an older generation than me. I mean, that one of the first people I ever played for was Elisabeth Welch of 30 years ago. I was in my early 20s, and through those show people things, I was put together with her. So there she was in her late 80s, and there's me in my early 20s. I just used to beam at her, and I played for Betty Garret as well, and some of these older stars. But Liz was marvellous. I mean, I remember her once turning to me and she said, "Don't get too jazzy." She said at some point.
Yes. That when you said you would change something, and she said, the composer.
Yes. No, there I am, young and sort of wanting to kind of have creative input, and we were doing "Love for Sale." So this is the Cole Porter song that she actually sang it for in the New Yorkers. I think she was the first person to sing "Love for Sale" back in 1930 or something. She had her old copy, and I started making a suggestion about maybe we could do this to that, and she just went, "Cole said." And sort of, and just, she'd obviously had a session with Cole Porter where he'd sort of talked to the song, and I mean, what Cole said, and you got to just go fine. No, I mean, 1 degree of separation.
What did you say?
But what I mean, I love when I listen to her recordings now. I love that she doesn't feel that she has to do anything to the song to make it hers. She just wants to find the most straightforward way of presenting the song, and it isn't like there've been 96 other versions of this, so I have to turn it upside down or do it as a begin or do it in waltz time. It's just, how do I make a direct contact between this song and the audience? And I think I get more like that as I get older, sort of like less. I'm less wanting to kind of say, look at this fancy arrangement I can do, and more. I don't do a lot of jazz reharmonizations. We were both quite glad to find out after one of our performances that Michael Feinstein was there. We were quite glad not to know beforehand, because obviously he's, the great the great expert.
I saw somebody after the show. This was a few years ago in the audience, and I went in to have a drink with everybody afterwards, as you'll see, and I thought, there's a guy over there as a dead ringer for Michael Feinstein. I thought, and as I got nearer, he got more and more like Michael Feinstein. I thought, I'm going to say to you, you should do impersonations of Michael Feinstein. As I walk up to him, I was about to say, you're... And he just stood up and he said, "Hello, Annie." Well, I can't tell you the word I said, "Oh, dear," or something like that. Because if I'd known he was in, but he thought he didn't say much to me. But
nobody said to me. I think we'd been doing the Rodgers and Hart song, "Isn't It Romantic?" and he said, "It's a long time since I heard those original chords." And I'm kind of going, well, I know there's a sort of like everyone sort of sees this music now through that sort of 50s prism and all those sort of jazz reharmonizations, which are great. The Ella Fitzgerald versions, whatever, they're wonderful. But this was written as theatre music. My connection to it is more kind of in those original orchestrations.
The way Richard Rodgers wrote it, it's lovely. He plays a snatch of it in our show.
Amazing. I'm so glad you mentioned Elisabeth Welch. The last interview we just did, she came up then as well.
She did?
She did.
She was fantastic. I went to Leningrad for the weekend with her madly. We were asked by Vanessa Redgrave.
You went to Leningrad?
To Leningrad for the weekend.
Vanessa Redgrave?
Yes, the Actors Union building had burnt down or something, so she rounded up all these people. This is in 1990. And so I was playing a few songs with Liz and a few with an American singer called Patty Allison. In the second half was, they made this piece about capital punishment. So I remember they carried Liz Welch on in a chair and pretended to electrocute her, and she was electrocuted.
Oh my God!
This is in Leningrad, in a great big hall in Leningrad, and by the end of it, everyone on stage was dead. At which point, I was trucked on at a grand piano with this American singer, Patty Allison, singing Over the Rainbow, which was quite the campus entrance I've ever made.
You've never told me that.
Well, it's kind of like, I tell it now and I kind of go, that can't have happened, can it? That's like, I mean...
I wonder who pitched that. Who pitched that to Elisabeth Welch, right? You're going to come on.
You've got to write a book, Jason.
She was very game. The first time I met her, I was sent to teach her Madame Armfelt songs and a little night music for a new recording. I knocked on the door at 2:00 and in I go to her flat in Knightsbridge, and she said, "Do you want a drink?" And I went, "Oh, tea or coffee?" And she went, whiskey or vodka? and we just laughed. And there we were at very different moments in our life, But my memory of Elisabeth Welch is laughing. We giggled the whole time.
Well, it seems to be a common theme with you then. Because the two of you seem to have the most fun together.
We do have fun. We've travelled a lot. I mean, that's what's been so wonderful about this. It's just been absolutely wonderful. I just wish to God that I'd met Jason 50 years ago, but fortunately it would probably have still been in his cot.
Just out.
So what is it, do you think, about music then that brings people together? Not just you two, but us and the audience. People want to hear these songs again and again. What is it?
Well, everybody loves music. No, actually, I did a show with Alan Jones on the radio. It was an hour thing where you could choose your own music. And he said the previous week he'd interview Eileen Atkins, and she said, I've never liked music, and I've never heard anybody ever say that. She said, so she had real difficulty. I can't understand that. It's a huge part of my life. Absolutely all the time. And I just think, I never talk about the Royal Shakespeare Company or what's going on at the National. I just talk about Gershwin. And what I'd really like is my own radio show. Not all of every week, but I'd love to do one with everything I love.
Well, if any radio producers are listening,
This is
and Reid, I'd
you
tune
need your
in.
own podcast. You need your own podcast, and then you can do what you want.
No, it's terrific. I would hate not to do this. Working with somebody like Jason, who is absolutely, it can be a bit frightening sometimes because honestly, I'm not the kind of singer that should be singing with him.
I've also been told by some people that I have resting bitch face. Sometimes you'll ask me a question and actually I'm just thinking and processing and I'm probably looking into the distance and resting my short-sighted eyes.
So is the rehearsal room like then with you? We've got it into a. We've done so much together. I think I've sort of learned when to shut up now. I hope he respects me. I certainly respect him enormously.
This would be a very awkward time to find out that he didn't, wouldn't it?
No. As I said, she takes it. What's great is that Annie takes it very seriously, and it isn't just it'll be a bit of camp fun and I'll sing a few songs. I mean, it will be fun and it is light entertainment if you like, but you take it very seriously, and you'll come back to me and say, I've been really thinking. I think maybe we should swap those two songs over or something, and I'll kind of go, yeah, absolutely right. I mean, I think I'm quite good at structuring things as well, but we agree, and I basically know where your voice sits. So hope we can hopefully start in a key that's not going to be too far away.
Yeah. The only thing that we do have a problem with is keys.
Yeah,
because I changed my mind, but Jason said he has problems with other singers because I'm writing a song now, which is not me, it's the key.
I love that.
Sorry, it's not the key, it's me. I think, because I change it, and then I get stressed. I really get stressed about it.
Just a semitone can make a huge difference as to where things sit and how they sit.
And then I think, why can I sing that octave in that song? And why can't I sing it in that song?
Yeah.
And some songs I don't think about it, I just do it. And then other songs I get very conscious of what I'm doing. And that's the only thing I really get stressed about. And I'm terrified of saying, can we change it back to that? Or can we change it? Because I don't like asking that. No.
And it's mostly fine. It's,
Because we might not agree, because it's like
for me,
Lawrence Foster Jenkins things. It sounds all right to me.
No, I just want. For me, I don't want there to be a disconnect ever between the Anne that's chatting and then the Anne that's singing for an audience. It just wants to be all the same.
It's not that easy, though. It really isn't that easy because you don't sing, you don't speak in those notes, do you? You don't speak in those notes. No.
But you don't have a director, do you?
No, I know people have said to me, you've got to have a director. Well,
do you direct each other then, or...?
Yeah, we're quite good about making suggestions about, and if there's a couple of moments where we have a conversation and we sort of talk about how that might be, and then gently hopefully mostly gently give each other suggestions.
That requires such intimacy and trust to comment on a cast member's work. That must go to show.
I'm not good with directors. I don't like being told what to do. I don't mind a little bit of guidance, but if I'm working in a television show or a series or something and the director immediately comes up, and Sarah Lancashire is exactly the same, we talk about this. The minute a director comes in and says, I want you to play it like this, I want to go home.
Yeah.
And I feel that way about Cabaret. I would take suggestions, of course I do, and I listen to things, but I'm busting with ideas, and so I don't want somebody telling me what to do. It really puts me off, actually. Immediately, a little demon goes in my head. We don't want to do this, do we? And I think, no, I think I'll go home now. I'm not bothered with this. So I have to work with people that I get on with,
No, but also when you say you take this seriously, you during this rehearsal process, because it's actually a few years since you've done a cabaret, between the pandemic and being non-stop in demand on television.
That's been a shock.
I know you've had moments of doubt and kind of where you've been kind of going,
whether I could actually sing or not, because I'm very old now. We won't talk about that, but I think if anybody told me that somebody at my age was getting up to do a cabaret, I would think, oh my God, they're insane. But then I remember hearing about Kitty Carlisle, who you must know about, and she went on till she was 90-something. A mutual friend of hers, she rang me and she said, Kitty's died, and I said, oh, well, I heard that she was working until recently, and Anne said, no, she wasn't. She hasn't worked since Christmas. And I thought, she was 97, and I thought, that's what I want.
She was good. No, I did play for her over here, and she was fairly incredible.
Tell us about the people you played.
No, Kitty was. I did a one-woman show with her, but I remember her. I was playing some Gershwin. I had to play a Gershwin overture, and then she started talking about when George used to play, and I started, I might just get hysterical in a minute.
Well, you could have thrown it. Well, Cole says
no, I know. And she would also talk about Jerry Kern, and she just knew them all. She was very nice about that. The first time we rehearsed a song, at the end of it, she walked up to the piano and she shook my hand and she said, "That would be very nice, thank you," in that sort of formal New York, sort of Upper East Side way.
For Lorna Luft too, didn't you?
I did, which was very different.
So what I'd like to know is, how do you decide, with the vast back catalogue, how do you decide exactly what goes in the show? Because there must be so much.
Well, it's a nightmare.
I can imagine.
I've got boxes all over the place of sheet music, but there were 3 songs that I always wanted to sing, and I wish to God I hadn't chose them now, because they're an I should really have considered all the sort of octave leaps and things, whether I was actually capable of singing them. It's very difficult for anybody else to understand, and it's difficult for Jason to understand, but I spent years singing in my kitchen. When I first decided to do cabaret, and I had all these songs in my head, and one of them was called My Gentleman Friend, which we might revive if we do another show, and I'd always sung it because I'd gone into a junk shop and found an LP of this thing, a review called Make My Manhattan, and I was just collecting things, and there was this song called Gentleman Friend, and I played it and sang it, and thought, oh, I'd love to sing that. Where would you get it? This was 50s, or 60s, where would you get the music? And I got hold of somebody in New York I was told about, and got in touch with him and said, have you ever heard of this song? And he came back to me and said, how much do you love me? He said, I was with the writer of this, the songwriter, 2 weeks before he died, and he gave me all his music, and I thought, this is meant to be. To watch that music coming through on my computer, I still feel emotional about it, to watch the music coming through that I'd sung for years, and to actually see it, and to know that I could get somebody to play it. I can't. Oh, the excitement. I thought, this is possible. This is actually possible to do this, to sing this song. Yeah, I know I never feel that.
We're doing one song in this show, aren't we, from a British movie, an Annie Neagle movie, which I've never known anyone sang, I didn't know it. And you've had this street music, I know, for a lot of years. And the first time we rehearsed it, you did get quite upset that you couldn't believe all these decades later you were actually getting to sing it.
Well, music does make me cry.
Yeah.
Nothing makes me cry much. But when Jason plays, he plays the Warsaw Concerto in this, and that takes me straight back to my childhood and our little living room and our little radio, which it was played over and over again. Yeah, I think music is the only thing that makes me cry, really. Well,
you can feel your passion for it, and how lovely that you're able to take that passion and to turn it into something that people can share.
I just wish.
But better late than never.
Yes.
Well,
better late than never. You're doing it.
But I would love, I just wish I took the wrong turning. Really, a teacher at school wrote to my parents and said, "I think Anne's an actress." And I thought, "Oh, right, okay." Derek Jacobi, of course, was in his cradle, was sort of reading Henry V. It's all he ever wanted to do. I never thought about play. I never, actors was, have you read this play? Have you read that play? Have you No, it was never of any interest to me. All I wanted was music.
Did it ever occur to you that going into acting could lead to that, or was that something that it didn't?
No, I didn't. When you leave school, you're just grateful to have some direction. My parents were abroad, and they just wrote and said, "What do you want to do?" I was floating around, looking bad to find myself a bed sitting room. I had no home or anything, and so decisions were made really without thinking. I don't regret going to RADA. It was great.
So how about you then, Jason? Because we've talked a lot about how Anne came into this cabaret world, but what about you? Because your career, as Anne said, it's amazing. The people you've worked with, the things you've done. What is it about cabaret that brings you back?
Do you know, so I didn't particularly value my piano playing, and I went to Guildhall as a composer and worked as a composer of musicals and music for plays, and I was, you think I'm scary and serious now, but I was a lot more scary and serious as a 22-year-old, and I was quite dismissive of my piano playing, and it's taken me quite a long time to properly value it. I think sometimes the things you do relatively easily, you don't.
I always remember when I did a little part in Love Actually, which was cut out of the movie.
We've seen it though.
We've seen it, and it's the biggest crime of the century, in my opinion, that storyline wasn't.
And he always says that, and that is not just because we're
you and Francis Delatorre. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Richard Curtis is a fool.
He will literally watch it and cry. I'm not joking. We've sandwiched
rubbish. But I like it. Now you put me off now. But I was having lunch with an actor called Adam Godley, and I always I sort of have a cupboard in my head that I store little things people say. And he said, "What you find easy will make you famous, not what you find difficult." And I think that's absolutely
I love that.
True. I think it is, yeah. But the great thing about Jason is, there are lots of people who can play the piano, but his sense of rhythm is just...
Well, if you grow up playing for 30 children tap dancing on a clapped out old church or piano,
He sounds like he's got 10 fingers on each hand. He plays like an orchestra.
I would meet pianists at college who sort of were so used to just playing on their own in a room that the notion of playing in front of somebody else was, terrifying to them. Whereas it was always something you did in public, and actually it didn't matter if you played wrong notes particularly. You try not to, but what was important was to give them the spirit of the music and to keep going and be rhythmic and sort of to be improvised a bit.
What you're doing, it can sound horrible.
Well, no, my first performing job was a concert of Noel Coward and Cole Porter at the Barbican, one of those AIDS concerts.
But you'd already played in front of classrooms of children, hadn't you?
Yes, I had, but no, I remember. But it was twin pianos. It was me and Martin Smith on these twin pianos playing for David Kernan and Sally Ann Howes and Maria Friedman. And I just remember Martin. He used to laugh. No, but I remember laughing. And he would say, "Jason, sometimes you're the best pianist I know, and sometimes you're just the worst." Because I would sort of if I wasn't quite energised or committed to it, or my brain suddenly went elsewhere, there would sort of be handfuls of nonsense going on. I try to be a bit more prepared now.
You see, the great thing is, for me now, having Jason, is that it's not just in my head. It's a dream that becomes real every time I say to him, do you know this song? And he'll say yes. That is magical to me, because when I lived in the north, in Manchester, I used to try and play it myself, because I do play the piano, and then I would go and try and play it in my key so badly on the piano, record it on my little tape recorder, then take that into the kitchen and try and sing to that. So to have this, I tell you, it's just the most magical thing that I could have
Meanwhile,
ever.
I'm very happy that you're asking me to do these songs, because they're songs I love, and they're not what everyone else is wanting to sing at the moment, particularly. So
The difficulty is keeping it down to an hour and 15
I can
minutes.
imagine. Oh, I can totally imagine.
I mean, I could have done 3 days.
Do you have to? I'll happily be there till midnight.
well, no, you have to. They have 2 different shows a night,
Oh,
and
of course they do, yeah.
So what were some of those films and some of those film stars that you really resonate with, and you think you feel the nostalgia when you think of those films and think of those stars? It takes you right back
Well,
to
I
where...
don't. Well, I mean, people like, I suppose, the singers, I would think, would be people like Deanna Durbin and Jane Powell and Shirley Jones.
Yes.
People like that,
Yes.
yes.
you love the soprano. Well, we both love all those sopranos.
I was a soprano, but I can't, it's hard. So that's a problem now.
And how about you, Jason? Who would be a dream? I mean, maybe you've already done it, but who would be a dream person to play for, apart from Anne?
I don't think we want to go there, do we?
But no, it's always the people the ones you've just missed are frustrating, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, I was asked, I think I must have been in my 20s still, I was asked to do 2 weeks with Betty Garret, who was the taxi driver on the town.
On the town, yeah.
And she was just gorgeous, and such a sort of, there was no star nonsense, not that there is with Annie, but she would come up to my flat on the tube to rehearse, and she was just an old trooper who was used to schlepping around that great big country doing tours and things. And
I loved it. My sister Eileen, I love my sister Eileen. She's
no, I
fabulous.
know. I've done "Give Me Abandon My Baby" in one of my shows as a sort of tribute to her. But I found during lockdown, I was clearing out my desk, and I found this couple of letters she'd written me in sort of funny green biro, and she was extraordinary. But I mean, she had another one she didn't want to give up. She said she'd had this, terrible thing happened. She'd had an asthma attack in a restaurant, and the paramedics had put a tube down her throat, and she'd been told she probably might not sing again. So she was going, well, whilst I'm recovering, I'm going to start writing a stand-up act to be called Stand-Up Grandma. And I think she did sing a little bit again, but there wasn't a sense of, I'll call it a day then. There was like, okay, well,
what can I do instead?
What can I do instead?
No, I'm not a call it a day person at all, I'm afraid. Yeah, you do wonder if people are laughing behind their hands and thinking, oh my God, she's dreadful,
no,
isn't
not
she?
at all.
I would quite like to overhear a conversation about what people think. I think, but maybe I wouldn't like it.
But I think if you're doing a cabaret and it's about your life, if you'd done this when you were 30 or even 40, how different that cabaret would be.
I wasn't the same person.
Exactly.
I wouldn't have had the confidence to do that. Then I would have got up and tried to be somebody else, you see. No, I don't.
And that's the magic, isn't it, with cabaret, is that authenticity, as you were saying, with the audience.
Well, we hope so. Magic, I like the word magic.
Magic. It's a great word. No, it is a great word, and it seems to sum up everything that you guys are doing. We can't wait to see it.
So we've talked about a few people,
Yes.
famous names.
Yes.
A few,
quite a lot of famous names.
Clang.
If we think about variety, who are some of your favourite variety performers?
Well, I mean, I would have to say my parents took me to the London Palladium to see Ken Dodd. I didn't really like him on the screen, but my God, in the theatre he was funny. He did about 17 hours, just went on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
But he was hilarious. I always remember he opened the evening and said, "Good evening, it's exactly the anniversary tonight, 10 years ago tonight, the circle fell in." And I mean, and everybody it was I always remember that. It was hilarious. And Tommy Cooper I saw at the Palace, Manchester, who was so funny. So funny. And I actually saw Judy Garland at Top.
I might kill you now.
Wow.
I know.
She was
Yes.
half an hour late. She came on with a glass of water, and the audience were going,
Yeah.
sort of. And when she came on in 5 minutes, we would have forgiven her anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
What do you think
That is incredible.
she had that made that possible?
Oh, who knows, darling? If we knew,
An ethereal thing.
get it in a bottle, wouldn't we? Yes.
I mean, there's always, for me, there's just that sense of like, she's either going to sing that note or she's going to drop dead, and I'm not sure which of
Yes,
those two things is going
that's
to
a really
happen.
good point.
But it's
I never feel like that.
don't you? I mean, I don't mean that you don't think the voice is going to work, but there's
It's exciting.
There's a
God
tension,
knows
yeah,
it's
there's a
exci-
tension.
God knows
No,
it's
she's
exciting.
sort of mentally all over the place when she's singing, isn't she? She's like somebody who's sort of shaking all over the place when she's singing. But oh gosh, she's wonderful. I've just thought of one of my favourite singers, Nanette Fabray.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now that's the voice I would like. It's
Yeah.
beautiful, lovely voice.
Those listening, this is the third lady of Broadway after Ethel Merman and Mary Martin was Nanette
Yeah,
Fabray.
that range.
There aren't
Funnily
any
enough,
recordings
you know,
of
when I was there are Broadway recordings. There's only really the one movie, The Bandwagon. But I know, when I was a bit like you two, the person I clung to at college was the first person I met who I'd ever met who knew who Nanette Fabray was, who was of my generation. And I sort of went, "You're going to be my friend for the next decade."
We've got to mention a name that always comes up when we talk about variety as well, which is the great Victoria Wood. And obviously all the work that you did. And I feel like, Anne, after the Love Actually conversation, you're going to think that I'm just being a sycophant now, but I could sit here and I could recite Dinner Ladies.
No, people have said that quite often. Love Actually, they've never mentioned, darling, so that's quite a surprise. but no, Victoria.
I could sit and quote Dinner Ladies all day. It's one of my favourites. And Dolly and Jean were the best characters. How incredible was that for you to have somebody like Victoria Wood, who obviously was famous for a double act with Julie Walters, to then write another great double act within that show that you and Thelma Barlow were able to carry off
Fun.
flawlessly?
Yes, it was good fun because my husband didn't discover her, you know, but he more or less he gave her first big chance on television. And then we got to know each other, and I thought at first she's just using me out of sympathy, but she wouldn't have gone on doing that. No, it was glorious. I mean, I used to say happiness is a script from Victoria Wood dropping on your mat, you know. And
But she was very particular, wasn't she, about how she wanted.
Oh, yeah. I did a Love Your Weekend thing with Alan Titchmarsh about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we were talking about that, and he said, "Did you get the giggles a lot during Dinner Ladies?" No, you don't get the giggles much. You do sometimes, but sometimes in a play you do, but not in anything like that, because you are so conscious of, or she was very conscious of getting the laugh.
Absolutely.
So it's quite serious business.
She was also.
Well, it wasn't-
She'd go home every night, from what you've told me, and rewrite and things. So every day it would be learning the changes. And
I've got photocopies of her handwritten. When she went home at night, I remember Jeff Posner saying, "We're under on this one," and the library it was, and she came back in the morning and written this wonderful sequence about Torville and Dean. Now they never did it because they'd spent too much time lying down on the ice, you know. But it was all handwritten and photocopied and just handed out to us, and yeah.
It was a business to her, wasn't it? It was a very serious business, comedy.
Oh
It's a
yeah,
serious business.
yeah.
But that seems to be something that's come up again, because you mentioned Tommy Cooper, and we've interviewed an actor that plays Tommy in a theatre show, and he said the same thing. We've spoken to comedy writers, and it's always the comedians that seem to keep themselves to themselves, and they, as you said, they're so serious about what they do.
you know, they're always going to be anxious about getting the laughs, and it must be very odd for people expect them then
to be hilarious.
Where you know,
I
them
started with Benny Hill. That's what I started with,
And how was that?
That he was giggly.
Yeah.
All week. Played practical jokes on me. He just saw me coming.
Were you being chased around in the swimming costume?
I never did that. No. I played a Puritan maid in my very first television appearance, and I went And instead of going to the costume designer, I didn't know. That's what I went to him, and I said, my knickers haven't come. And he said, oh, just wear your own, darling. And I thought...
And you worked with Tony Hancock as well, is that right?
Yeah. 5 or 6 of his shows, yeah. I went to a reunion recently about him, yeah. I think I'm the only person alive, actually, who worked with him. I didn't talk to him a lot. I was a nobody. I was just a walk-on, with an odd line. I talked to Sid a bit more. He was very confident, Sid. He would start a joke and come and light a cigarette, I remember, and because we all smoked, and then chat to you for a bit, and then suddenly he'd hear his cue come in and he'd say, just a minute, he'd go on and do the scene and come back and finish the conversation. He was very confident. But Tony was nervy. It's funny, isn't it, how they are?
Yeah.
They are so nervous, comedians.
Yeah, definitely.
What was it like then acting opposite the writer with Victoria Wood? Was she...
No, that was scary, yes. No, I think everybody was nervous of her. I said to her once, you've got to stop using this group. I'm very happy to be a part of it, but you've got to stop. I said, you should just write a film for... I remember saying Meryl Streep and Anthony Hopkins, and just write a movie and give it to a really good director, but she was not she couldn't do that. So the movies she did write, she had to be in.
Yeah.
And she had to... The only one we did, Pat and Margaret and Gavin Miller, said to me, I'm directing this, and he sent her off the set, and I thought she was so good in that.
Yeah.
I thought that was the best performance as an actress she ever gave.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have to accept it's very hard that we don't know everything. It takes you a long time to...
Can I have that in writing?
I don't.
So how about you then, Jason? Who are some of your favourite variety
Well, my
performers?
favourite for performers? Gosh. I mean, it's funny, if I grew up, my mum in Leeds running this dance school provided the babes, sort of for the pantomimes at Leeds Grand Theatre.
Yeah, that's where we saw people like Joel and Warris, I remember.
So, I'm trying to think who was in those. It was people like Dick Emery in the 70s. And
oh, it's funny.
I suppose, because otherwise there isn't variety for us to go and see. It's always in musical comedies, people might have sort of turns within them. But
Mark,
yes.
my son said this morning, I told him you were coming. I said, well, there isn't variety anymore. I suppose things like Britain's Got Talent is the closest thing we see to that now, but that's different.
And it's separate, isn't it?
It is separate.
So you might go and see a comedian one night and then a singer another night, but it's very rare to find it all together.
I mean, weirdly, a couple of decades ago, I wrote some songs for the Paris Lido's World Tour, and of course they always have acts in the middle of their things. They have jugglers and strange contortionists and things in between the singers and the girls running around in feathers. So in some ways it's sort of still alive in the continent, in those sort of casino shows and things, isn't it?
Is it? Right.
Yes. But I remember going to the Easter show at Radio City Music Hall, which they don't do anymore, but they do the Christmas show still, and they had a dog act, which was absolutely fantastic. And all these dogs careered down the aisle of Radio City, and then kind of they were extraordinary. It was kind of like...
That's a venue that gets brought up a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
No, it is.
People, yeah. And Ken Dodd and Tommy Cooper as well.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And Elisabeth Welch now.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Welch,
And you
she was a great
mentioned
thing.
Frankie Howard then.
Yeah, well, I was in Diggs in Manchester when I first went into Coronation Street, and Frankie Howard, she had 3 rooms. There was Patrick Stewart, who went on to be...
Patrick
There's a play to be
Picard.
Patrick Stewart, Frankie Howard and me
Oh my
in
god.
these Diggs.
That's as good as Benjamin Britten and Gypsy Rose Lee in Brooklyn, isn't it?
And one day, Frankie used to go off at night, of course, to do the clubs. He was working the club. And I came down and I just had a bath. And I was in a dressing gown sitting, having a cup of tea in the living room, watching television, I think. And he was sitting next to me, and he looked at my legs, which obviously must have been a bit pink, and he went, "Do you have a nice bath?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Good. And apparently what had happened was that I'd taken all the bath water.
No.
You know, and so he used to call me Bathroom Annie after. Yeah, and then I met him in town once. I'd had a slight car accident with somebody, and somebody clipped the back of his car. It was a diplomatic car, you know, and they'd just taken off, and Frankie was just coming back from work, and we said, well, we don't have any witnesses, and he said, I'll be a witness, what happened?
So we've mentioned a few theatres.
Yes.
So let's talk about some of your favourite theatres in terms of nostalgia, theatres to perform at. What are some of your favourite venues?
Well, I don't have any problem with that. I refuse to call it the Pinter Theatre. The Comedy Theatre is my favourite theatre. Yeah, I did Epitaph for George Dillon then, and I just like that theatre. I like where it is in London. I like the inside of it. I really like that. That's my favourite. Then Bath, the Theatre Royal Bath. Yeah, I've done thousands of theatres. I was getting them together for my grandsons. You know, I've got postcards of all. I thought, God, I'm a proper actress.
Somebody just hit you.
I've played all these, and as a stage manager, I did the Aberdeen and Edinburgh and Wolverhampton and, you know, all these weird places.
Yeah, because I heard that you started off. Did you do your beginning of your career? You did stage managing.
Well, a lot of people did because you came out of Broadway. I won a medal. I sort of suppose I came out top girl of the year because the other 2 medals were won by boys. But I hadn't a clue.
But it was harder to get your equity card and things as well in those
Well, I
days,
didn't know
wasn't
what to do. I didn't know to get an agent or anything. Somebody sent me to see this agent, and I just sort of said, can you tell me what you do exactly? Nowadays, they have all got agents before they leave.
Yeah.
It's a totally different world. I hadn't a clue. And then I was sat there for 6 months and doing nothing. Then suddenly this teacher phoned up one day and said, from RADA, and said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm not doing anything. He said, they're looking for a stage manager at Bath. Do you want to go there? And I said, yeah, that's how it happened.
And what about you, Jason? What are some of your favourite venues?
Oh, I don't know. I was pondering this. I mean, it's slightly at the other extreme, but it's always an occasion going to Covent Garden, to the Opera House. It's so lovely, and I don't know, I was brought up going to ballet and things, so that always feels exciting.
That
but
must have been nice, actually, because your mum took you to those things.
Yes.
Did she? Yeah.
Yes, the other night I put on the Swan Lake from Covent Garden that's on iPlayer, and a minute in, Tchaikovsky was making me weep on the sofa, you know, so it's all that's rooted deep somewhere. I mean, smaller venues are often more nice to play, aren't they, when you have the connection with the audience.
Yeah. I'm talking about playing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the last 15 years or so, I've worked quite a bit at the Menier Chocolate Factory in South London, you know, which is that lovely old brick space, but where there's a lovely connection with the audience.
I'd like to do that.
Sheldon Harnick, we did a production of She Loves Me, that wonderful musical.
Oh, yeah.
I'd orchestrated it, and
I saw that.
And Sheldon walked to the front unasked at the end of the press night, and sort of called for quiet and said, this is the best production of She Loves Me I've ever seen. And I was kind of going, I hope all you critics are taking note of that. It was such a sweet thing to do.
Lovely.
I know, I couldn't quite believe it.
Yeah.
I thought,
how nice.
he is still around, isn't he?
Is he? Yes,
he's one of the few
I went to
still.
his 90th birthday party in New York, and they all performed. I went with Barbara, and they all performed, and she sang, and I can't remember who else, but I've got the program somewhere. It was amazing. I think it was there that the Kander or Ep came up to me, and I was sort of
one of them.
You know, and as I said, "Oh, you're not really," and I could see him thinking, "Oh my God, they're letting anybody in tonight." You know, I could see, you know, fans. They were not expecting fans at Sheldon Harnick. Unfortunately, as the evening went on, somebody came up to me and who'd seen me on television, and she said, I've just realised, you know, who you are. So that was quite nice.
And what did she know you from?
I think it was Last Tango, wasn't it? Yeah.
Which we haven't mentioned, actually.
No, we won't go there.
But we are. No, I was thinking the connection there really is just how that surprised everybody because of the, you and Derek Jacobi's age in that show, and you were talking about doing the cabaret and saying, do people want to see this at my age? But that show defied any reservations that you would have about that.
Good. I'm very glad about that. Good.
Yeah.
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 It's absolutely what the public wanted, and it's tremendously
great
well.
job. It was a great job.
It is.
It was a great job. Yeah.
Well, we
And
won't.
Sally Wainwright's a fantastic writer, isn't she? She's so brilliant.
Oh yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
really brilliant.
She's wonderful, and I was very lucky to get it. I'm just very lucky. Derek's very lucky as well. His autobiography is called "As Luck Would Have It."
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic.
He didn't write that. He dictated it.
Oh, that would be a lovely audiobook though, if he does it. So we might already have touched on the answers to this, but if you could be any variety performer and you could just have a God-given talent, I think we already know the answer potentially to this one, what would you do?
I can't think of a name.
Soprano.
No, a belter.
Ethel.
Ethelman.
No.
Don't be very careful. We might fall out.
No. Dolores Gray.
Oh.
I heard her sing I'm
Great
Still
voice.
Here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And I
voice.
remember that being blown away by that wonderful voice.
What about you, Jason?
I was thinking about this on the way in because I know you've asked people this question, and I was sort of remembering when I was little I had a lot of puppets of different sorts, hand puppets and marionettes, but I also had a ventriloquist dummy, and I mean I never did it, but maybe I'd have had a vent act. Who knows?
Listen, it's never too
that
late.
surprised you, isn't it?
Imagine, Annie, you turn around on
Full of-
Friday and there's a puppet at the
Full of
piano.
surprises. Full of surprises.
You need a mini Anne.
Yes. I can see "Don't Give Him Ideas" written all over her face.
Are you ready for some quick fire
Yes,
questions?
okay.
I'm going to give you some quick fire questions with options, this or that, and you just pick instinctively. We'll do one at a time. So, Anne, I'm going to ask you first. Which leading man do you prefer? Wallace from Wallace and Gromit or Derek Jacobi?
Derek Jacobi.
Would you prefer a press night party, or are you a stage door sneak out?
A press night party.
Does jam go on the scone before the cream or after the cream?
Before the cream.
Jam first.
Jam first.
Yeah.
Would you prefer hymns on the lawn or mulled wine by the fire?
Oh, both actually.
And finally, would you rather be sat in the audience or waiting in the wings?
Oh, waiting in the wings.
Fabulous.
Fantastic.
Are you ready?
Oh, have you got ones for me as well?
Of course we have, Jason.
Right.
Of course we have. Ballet or opera?
Oh gosh, I'm gonna say ballet because I can't do it, and I can't paint. So when I go to a gallery, I just go, "How beautiful!" And I know whenever there's music, there's an analytical bit of my brain going on. But when I see beautiful people doing beautiful dancing, I just go. I think I have that reaction that other people have to music, which is just, that's a very long answer. Ballet.
We love it. Maria Friedman or Maria von Trapp?
I think Maria Friedman's probably more fun than Maria von Trapp was.
Cole Porter
Yes,
or George Gershwin?
George Gershwin.
Would you rather have dinner before a show or after a show?
And no, that's my both answer because any extra meals are good, but
A meal before and a meal after.
yeah, after is probably more relaxed and yeah.
No, and it's done.
Yeah.
Would you rather be sat in the audience or waiting in the wings?
Waiting in the wings because there's sort of, I'm a closet turn really, or not so closet.
Oh yes, he is. Actually, I've seen him.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us today. It's been just amazing.
Total pleasure.
It's just lovely to see, younger
Enthusiasm.
people sort of still connecting to all our traditions.
Yeah, of course, and that's why we want. As soon as I saw that this show was happening, I was like, we have to speak to you because I just think it's just gorgeous, like you say, to take these songs and hear different people doing them, and your passion just comes across, especially on your social media with all the stuff that you do and YouTube. And the Crazy Cox I just think it's the most stunning venue.
It is gorgeous, isn't it?
We love it.
Always, and you feel like you're on stage with the performers. It's so intimate but glamorous.
I know when we think back, I mean, it can't have been realistic, but when you think of those Fred and Ginger movies where they're always in those New York nightclubs and it's Art Deco, fantastic, beautiful, you know,
this
they're
is my
so
dream,
glamorous.
that I'll win the lottery. The first thing I would do is to buy a building and start a cabaret room so that I could get all the people, from all over the world, from France and Germany and everywhere else, to come and do cabaret. I would love that.
Well, we fully support that dream.
Yeah.
I think that we should try and get that going.
I win it tonight, I'll let you know.
Yeah, you have to put it on.
I've waited the whole interview to have a biscuit because I didn't want to chew down the microphone.
Yeah.
But these are fantastic.
Really?
Isn't it fascinating when somebody is so successful for one thing and yet their heart belongs to something else?
It was so moving, and I think it does come across in the episode, but actually the passion that Anne has for music is just unparalleled. It was actually seemed stronger than Jason's, funnily enough.
Yes, absolutely. And his passion for acting in comedies seems stronger than Anne's. No, I'm only kidding. But the thing is, as well, as soon as we stopped recording, the conversation didn't stop, did it? And she carried on telling us about all of the amazing ideas that she's got and all the amazing things that she wants to do. It was inspiring. I was exhausted.
It was, and it was one of those where we'd switch the microphones off and we kind of wished that we'd left
that we hadn't. Absolutely. That happens a lot, doesn't it, actually?
It does happen to us a lot, especially once they've brought the wine out.
I was getting stuck into that cheese. Oh, that cheese was fantastic.
So if you were going to take something away from that episode, Mike, what would it be?
Oh, Anne and Jason's chemistry was so special. It was so, you couldn't describe it. You had to experience it. And I suppose that's what's going to be amazing about this show, is that will come across on stage. They're so passionate. They're so motivated to do well for each other and for the audience. I mean, they're kindred spirits. They really are.
Yeah, I think that's something I really took on board, and how when two kindred spirits get together, they can create such magic. And I can't wait to be there on Saturday and watch. And any of you that want to watch,
excited.
There are still tickets left and you can go and buy them. They're, if you just Google Anne Reid and Jason Carr, A Night at the Pictures, you'll be able to find it, or wherever you're listening, we'll have it in the show notes.
There's not many left, though. They're selling like hotcakes.
They really are. So get your tickets now.
Thank you all so much for your support again. And please, please, please get in touch with us and give us a follow on social media. Follow us on Instagram at twicenightlytheatrepodcast. Follow us on Twitter at twicenightlypod, and give us a search on Facebook, Twice Nightly the Podcast. And also a brand new platform that we are now available on. You can find all of our episodes from Series 1, and we are now on YouTube. So make sure you search for Twice Nightly the Podcast, subscribe to our channel, give us a like, give us a comment, and relive all those magical moments from Series 1.
And what we love about YouTube as well is that everything we do is subtitled. So if for whatever reason you're listening and you feel like you want the subtitles, then they're all available at YouTube. That accessibility was something that was really important to us.
And don't forget SpeakPipe. If there's anything you want to say about this episode, anything from our first series, or anything that you want to talk about,
send a message to Anne. Send
a message to Anne.
And Jason, if you've seen the show and you loved it, send them a message.
This is your opportunity, so get on SpeakPipe.
From all of us here at Twice Nightly, we wish you a wonderful Music Hall and Variety Day 2022. All that's left for us to say is...
see you next week. Tonight, singing live, Maria on the team.